This is Sid Nickel Publications. The title of today's video is I self-published 7 books, and this is what I've learned. Now, those 7 books are here, 4 novels on this side, 3 more niche books here, all available on Amazon, so you can go and verify that those are books written by Sid Nickel. But I think the most important thing we can do right now is talk about the lessons that I learned while writing these books. And let's jump into that because they are critically important in my opinion. And the most important one we're going to start with first, and that is do not beat yourself up. I'm speaking from experience here. When I wrote my first book, A Backwards Glance, I was constantly stressed. I was constantly critical of myself and my writing. I felt like I was writing slow. I felt like I was promising things to followers on social media about updates or excerpts or when the book would actually be published. I learned not to do that, not to make those promises. And I learned not to beat myself up about any of it. It just hampered my writing. During that process, I would get so uptight about how maybe a chapter was flowing, how it fit in with the rest of the book. And I would spend hours trying to manipulate the chapters and move them into a better order. That was useless. The book really was in a specific order, and I tried to overanalyze everything about it. Once I stopped doing that, and I began to really and truly focus on enjoying the stories I was telling in the book, I wrote better. As a matter of fact, I wrote faster. And the book, I think, turned out really well. Now, the second thing you can do, and I did this for every book that I have written here, and I think we all generally do it. But that second thing is to search your own experiences for inspiration. Isn't it natural? I mean, you are who you are. You're going to write in your own life development manner. But you can take that just a step further. You can really stop and think about your own life experiences and how they might transfer into a novel. How could some of your less than pleasant experiences transfer into a plot or maybe to a character? How could some of your really great life experiences transfer into that plot and into those characters and add meaning to the book and maybe inspire someone through your writing? That's the idea, is to use your own personal experiences. Let them inspire you in ways that will make your writing better. The third thing is this, and it is simply be curious. It is my nature to be curious. I am always very questioning about things. Why did this event turn out this way? What was that building originally for? Who lived in this house originally? It's just the nature of the way my mind works. And I am ultimately curious about things, but I'm also ultimately curious about people. I'm really curious about what makes certain people tick, whether it be things that I really admire about people or things that I don't admire about people. There's a lesson to be learned, and how I try to do this, really focusing on my writing, is I use that curiosity to drive my creativity. I try to let my own natural curiosity figure out where I can take a situation that has an answer and put it in a book, or take a situation that really is unanswered and provide my own answer. In other words, let my creativity solve that riddle that my curious mind has created. That's just one of the methods that I use when I am developing plots and I'm doing outlines, and specifically when I'm working on characters. I try to think about the curiosity I have about certain people and how they behave or how they go through their daily life. You may not find that to be as important as I do, but I can tell you your own personal experiences are a huge library of information that you can absolutely use in your writing. And that curiosity you bring along can really enhance and grow your own creativity as you write. We're going to come back after visiting a couple of locations. And I wanted to just throw these in the video because they were very important to me at different points in my writing. There'll be others, and you've heard me say in the past 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be on location for the next several months, talking about, showing places that gave me real creative moments. Several of them are from Kill 'Em All, my most recent book, the second in the Sam Bennett series. It's there that I came up with certain events that were primary to the plot. And I drove to those spots and I stood there and I looked at them. And in my mind, I imagined, maybe like a movie, I imagined how this would go down and where it was and how far it was. What was the creek like? How deep was it? How rocky was it? How wide was the road? How overgrown was a path? How tree lined was a field? Those are the things that I use in my mind to drive my own creativity. So let's do that right now. Let's show you some of the locations and some of the questions that come to my mind whenever I'm out looking at spots to inspire me and grow my own help my curiosity grow my creativity. While we're talking about curiosity, I just wonder, do you think like I do and wonder when you see a place like this, who lived there? Who built the place? And what happened to them? Where did they go? I get inspiration from things like this all the time. And it just so happens that I know who lived there at one time. Miss Ida May, a lady who worked for my grandparents. She was a housekeeper and a babysitter for myself and my cousin Sandra. And all 100 pounds of this 60-ish year old lady was completely in charge. I was never told by my parents to respect this older black lady who worked for my grandparents on the weekends and sometime during the week. It was understood. She was an unbelievable human being. I lost track of her, and I just really wonder when she left here. My dad and I used to drop her off. She was a widowed lady, always kind until I did something wrong, and then she would cloud up and rain on me. But these are the things that I use to draw inspiration, and part of it is just pure curiosity. I hope you have some of it too. Beautiful flowers, actually gladiolas that are awesome. I'm curious, was there an old home site here alongside the road? Maybe someone planted some flowers and the house was just past those trees. Looks like a nice opening for a old homestead. Maybe it was a house that was next door to this small building. Every time I look at this place, I wonder, what was it? Looks like an old country store maybe. The building in the back is kind of overgrown. Maybe it was a store and the building in the back was a residence. I just don't know. But that thought and that look makes me really curious. That kind of thing really drives my mind when I start thinking about stories and how to create stories. Just these kind of settings really drive my mindset into looking back, thinking of how or what something might have been. It's just a simple case of curiosity. When we talk about things that are inspiring, I'd like you to think about this tree. It's a giant. a huge magnolia here on our property, and it keeps going and going and going. I've heard people say this tree could be 100 years old, 150 years old. I don't know. I'm not a tree specialist. But it does not seem at all impossible that this tree could be alive in 1925, maybe 1875. I don't know. I'm just not sure about that. It is a gigantic and beautiful magnolia. And welcome back to the office as we close out today's video. I can tell by some of the texts and emails, comments I get, that people recognize this is not your normal or everyday YouTube channel, especially not your average writing advice YouTube channel. And that's just fine with me. I like it that way. We aren't slick, we aren't sophisticated. We are just a real person trying to pass along real life experiences and the experiences of writing books. The thing that I want to just reinforce from those location videos, I'm a very visual person. I like to have the example of something. I don't really want to imagine what someone's talking about. I like to be taken to that spot and really be able to eyeball it and think about it from my own perspective. And that's why we went out to the location of the farm just down the street and the setting of that maybe old home place. The giant magnolia tree in the front yard, and thinking and questioning when it started, who planted it, how many people have gone by it, and what different time frames has that tree experienced as it's been alive. That is a curious thing to me. And then, of course, thinking about the setting of that lone chimney in that field. It's a little bit melancholy for me, and it certainly arouses my curiosity, even though I knew a person who lived there at one point. It's still standing. And every time I drive by it, I think of that lady and the impact she had on me. And I think if we can find a way to reach inside of ourselves for those kind of moments, reflections, or just memories, we can use them to inspire ourselves, to really drive our own creativity and be better writers. And that's what this is all about. So in closing, let's think about something here. What we're talking about are three major things as you sit down and you start writing your book. The first big thing is the challenge of writing the book. And we've talked about that through many videos, styles, methods, and outlines, checklists, and different disciplines to follow. The other thing is this. When you go through that process, as I did in book one, and you break through that mystery and you self-publish or you have it published by a publisher, you will break out of that area of unknown to a certain degree. And then you're going to jump right back into that unknown area as you write other books, because you don't know maybe how it's going to go. You don't know how it might end exactly. You may not know the changes that you're going to make as you do the book. Some of you absolutely know, and you just go straight down a path, and that's great. That's called writing style. The last thing, and I think this is another really key lesson from today's videos, you learn by doing. You're not going to become a better writer until you start your writing. And it can be poor. Actually, it can be terrible. And it's just fine as long as you have the discipline and the commitment to work on it, to massage it, to read it, to edit it, to come back and rewrite certain areas again. Now, you may be Harper Lee and you may write your first book and it may be a bestseller. That's highly unlikely, by the way. Or you may be someone like me who struggled to write their first book, who was incredibly frustrated in writing it, and has gone through some frustration in the beginning of it not selling more than it did, even though it's my best-selling book. The lesson is in the doing and in the experience. Nothing about book sales from either side of this list impacts my writing. And I can say that to you honestly. I'm not going to make money off this writing, probably ever. But those books matter so much to me, and they will to you. And if you will get started, and if you'll get yourself in the right mental state of mind to be creative, to be curious, and to find inspiration, and to absolutely not beat yourself up as you go through this process, you'll learn an awful lot. If I can help you, if I can answer a question as you go through that journey, drop a comment here. You can always send me an email at sidnickelpublications@gmail.com. I hope today helped. I hope today was fun at some point. And I wish everyone the absolute best in their writing efforts. Come back and see us next week. But until then, take care of yourself. Try to have some fun. And we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.